Hello, beautiful Libra. This is your deep, soul-guided horoscope reading, brought to you by Zodiac Whisper Tarot. But before we begin, let me ask you something that might just shake you awake. What happens when you stop trying to be everything for everyone and start truly listening to yourself? Because right now, silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. If you found your way here, I want you to know this. It is not by coincidence. Something sacred is happening. Your energy, your timing, your preconceits all aligning with a message that was meant to find you, in this exact moment. There is divine purpose behind this connection. You see, when the noise of the world dims, when the roles you've been playing fall quiet, there's a stillness that reveals what's real. A leaf only falls when the wind stops speaking. And just like that, your soul hears its own voice most clearly in the space between obligations. Libra, your heart craves balance. Harmony isn't just a word for you, it's a lifestyle, a longing. But sometimes, in the pursuit of peace, you pour so much of yourself into others that your inner scales tip silently. And you don't notice until you feel the ache. That's why this video exists, to help you return to center. To hold space for the whispers within. To remind you that sometimes, your softest no is your most powerful yes. But before we dive into what the cosmos are preparing to show you, let me take a moment to say something important from the very bottom of my heart. Thank you. Thank you for being here, for every like, every comment, every soul that subscribes to Zodiac Whisper Tarot. You are not just a viewer, you are part of this sacred circle we're building together. Your support breathes life into this space. It allows me to keep bringing you these healing messages week after week. And believe me, beloved Librail, want to stay until the very end today, because what the universe is about to unveil is nothing short of magical. Now tell me, my loyal Libras, what energy pulled you here today? Was it a quiet tug in your chest? A dream that lingered past morning? Or maybe a sign too subtle to ignore? If you're ready to realign, drop your sacred number 6 in the comments below. That's your activation key. The number of harmony, heart, and healing. And remember, you don't have to shout to be heard. Sometimes, when you go quiet, the entire universe leans in to listen. So take a deep breath. Let the static fade. And stay with me, because your soul is about to remember something it's always known. It's often in moments of quiet retreat that the truth becomes unmistakably clear. Now that we've stepped into this space of stillness together, it's important to understand why this silence matters, and what it's truly asking of you, dear Libra. As Venus, your ruling planet, moves through the deeply emotional waters of Cancer, you are being guided back to the softest part of yourself, the place where love is not about performance, but presence. Where being appreciated doesn't require effort, but authenticity. This celestial transit opens the emotional chambers of your heart, asking, what makes you feel seen? What kind of love allows you to exhale? These questions are not meant to overwhelm, but to invite clarity. And clarity, for you, rarely comes from noise. Especially now. With the moon casting a dreamy light from Pisces, your intuition is heightened, but so is your sensitivity. This can feel like being underwater emotionally. Everything is louder, deeper, but blurrier. If you're not careful, you might mistake someone else's emotion for your own. That's why silence isn't just helpful right now, it's essential. Without it, you're more likely to make decisions based on pressure rather than purpose. The energy of the Two of Swords confirms it. A crossroad is unfolding. There's a decision on your path that requires more than logic. It asks for balance between head and heart, between fact and feeling. This card doesn't show someone running toward an answer. It shows someone pausing long enough to feel which truth resonates deeper. That pause is your power. And it's beautifully mirrored by the Justice card, your card, Libra, the embodiment of discernment, fairness, and inner alignment. This isn't about pleasing others or making the right choice in their eyes. It's about tuning inward to decide what is fair to you. But how can you hear your inner voice if it's constantly drowned out? How can you know what your soul wants if you never give it space to speak? This is the part of your journey where spiritual maintenance becomes practical, where emotional self-care becomes non-negotiable. One of the kindest things you can do for yourself this month is to claim a small ritual of silence each day. No devices. No notifications. Just a flickering candle, your breath, and the sound of your own presence. That's where real answers come from, not in chaos, but in quiet. In life, we're not always called to move forward with speed. Sometimes, the most powerful act is to stand still with grace. Even in the ancient wisdom passed down through spiritual traditions, there's a recurring message: patience births clarity. You don't need to rush to make the right decision. You don't need to fill every moment with a response. There is quiet wisdom in waiting. In trusting that when you are ready, the next step will appear, not because you forced it, but because you created space for it to rise. You may feel like you're carrying the weight of many expectations right now, some from others, many from yourself. Let this be your permission to release some of them. You are not here to carry everyone's peace. You are here to honor your own. And that peace isn't earned through doing more, it's revealed through doing less, intentionally. So, if you've been feeling torn, uncertain, or emotionally stretched, consider this a sacred pause. Not to avoid, but to discern. In this pause, you'll remember what your heart already knows, that love, clarity, and alignment are born not from being everything to everyone, but from being true to yourself. And that, Libra, is more than enough. Even the most graceful scales can lose their balance when too much is placed on one side. And Libra, this moment in your journey is gently asking you to notice what you've been carrying, particularly the things that were never yours to begin with. The number 6, the sacred frequency guiding this month, whispers of harmony, compassion, and the healing power of love. But not love that overextends. Not love that contorts itself into something else to be accepted. No, this is love that realigns through truth. Through quiet. Through conscious detachment from the noise that has kept you from fully hearing your own needs. There's something powerful about this number. It governs the space where home lives, where relationships deepen, and where forgiveness begins. But perhaps the most overlooked form of forgiveness is the one we owe ourselves, for overcommitting, for staying too long, for pretending we're okay when we're running on empty. And it's in silence, not surrender, that we start to reclaim the small pieces of ourselves we've scattered in our pursuit of keeping everyone else at peace. This isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming centered. The High Priestess, one of the most revered cards in the tarot, does not speak loudly. She observes. She senses. She waits until the noise passes so she can act in wisdom, not impulse. When paired with the Seven of Cups, her message becomes even clearer. You may be facing many options right now, some that look tempting, some that feel familiar, but clarity won't come from choosing quickly. It comes from stepping back. From honoring the space between decisions. Because when your heart is overwhelmed, every option starts to look like a rescue. But true alignment never arrives in chaos. It waits for you in the calm. Here's something I've learned not only through astrology, but through life itself. When you stop over-explaining, over-apologizing, and over-giving, the right things stay. The wrong things fade. It's uncomfortable at first, yes. But the law of attraction is deeply activated when you release your grip. What you chase, chases away. But what you align with, arrives naturally. And alignment isn't about forcing anything, it's about making space for what's meant for you. That space is created when you stop talking yourself into things that no longer fit, and instead sit with yourself long enough to remember what does. This month invites you to gently audit your life. Where are you saying yes just to avoid conflict? Where are you shrinking your voice to maintain an image? And what would it feel like to choose one thing, just one that reflects your truth without guilt, without defense? That's the power of silent alignment. You don't have to explain your evolution. You only need to honor it. There's a quiet wisdom in something my grandmother used to remind me of when I was younger: peace isn't found in more noise, it's found in better choices. And often, those better choices begin with simply noticing. When you journal this week, ask yourself, what am I doing just to keep others comfortable? What one thing can I do this week that's just for me? You don't need to post about it. You don't even need to say it out loud. Just decide. Quietly. And act on it. That alone can shift everything. You see, Libra, your presence is already enough. You don't need to shout to be heard. The strength of your intention, when rooted in clarity, creates ripples that extend far beyond what you can see. And when you move with that kind of quiet conviction, the universe doesn't just listen. It responds. Not all waves crash. Some simply arrive and change everything. Breakthroughs often arrive when we stop chasing them. And Libra, with Mercury forming a gentle trine to Uranus, this moment offers you a rare kind of creative intelligence, the kind that slips in quietly while you're doing something mundane, like folding laundry or walking beneath the trees. It's not the kind of brilliance that needs to be forced or pushed into the spotlight. It arrives when your nervous system is calm, when your thoughts aren't scrambling to fix or perfect, but simply present. Sometimes the biggest ideas are born in the softest spaces. This brings us to a powerful theme in your professional world right now: quiet mastery. The Queen of Pentacles and the Eight of Pentacles walk beside you, reminding you that real progress doesn't come from noise or drama. It grows in stillness, repetition, care. You don't need to rush toward results. You don't need to overperform or multitask your way to validation. You just need to commit to building something solid, one steady step at a time. This is not the season for public declarations. It's the season for private refinement. In astrology, Uranus represents disruption, but also innovation. And when it connects with Mercury, the planet of communication and thinking, it stirs up new ways of solving old problems. But here's the secret: this type of insight often bypasses logic. It comes when you're relaxed, when your energy isn't scattered, when you're in tune with yourself instead of trying to impress the outside world. That's why the most successful moves for you this month won't come from doing more. They'll come from doing less, more intentionally. In a world that often rewards the loudest voices and fastest results, choosing quiet excellence is an act of courage. Choosing to protect your peace while building something meaningful is wisdom in action. And wisdom rarely shouts. It hums, it breathes, it listens. The people who truly build legacies aren't always the ones who make the biggest noise. The ones who show up with purpose, consistency, and integrity, even when no one's watching. That's the energy you're being called into now. And let's be honest, there's a difference between being productive and being busy. The former moves you forward, the latter keeps you distracted. You're not here to do everything. You're here to do what matters. And you don't need to prove yourself through burnout. In fact, the more you honor your natural rhythm, the more aligned your work becomes. Quality over quantity. Depth over speed. Presence over perfection. That's not weakness, it's strategy. As you navigate your work this month, remember that silence is not the absence of action. It's the space where action becomes meaningful. Keep your plans close to your chest. Let them ripen in private. There's strength in not revealing your hand too soon. Not everything needs to be shared in the moment it's conceived. Sometimes, the most beautiful ideas take time to grow roots before they're ready to bloom. And if at any point you begin to question whether moving at your own pace is enough, take this to heart: you were never asked to hustle to be worthy. You were only asked to be faithful with what you've been given. Faithful to your gifts. Faithful to your process. And faithful to the quiet voice within you that says, "This is the way." You don't need external noise to validate an internal knowing. Let the warm tone of copper brown guide you now, earthy, grounded, steady. Let it remind you that just like the earth doesn't rush to bloom every season, you too are allowed to evolve quietly. You are allowed to grow without announcing every step. Because when the time is right, what you've been cultivating in silence will speak for itself and the world will hear it clearly. Sometimes the heart speaks loudest in silence. And Libra, as we step into this chapter focused on love and emotional connection, you're being asked not to act on impulse, but to gently observe. With Venus, your ruling planet, drawing closer to the Sun, your desire for intimacy, recognition, and closeness may intensify. It's natural to want to be seen, to be chosen, to feel that warm affirmation from another. But here's the truth few will say out loud: not every connection that feels intense is meant to last. And not every emotional spark is rooted in genuine depth. Some are simply reflections of your own unmet needs, surfacing in moments when you're most vulnerable. The energy of the Knight of Cups paired with the Lover speaks volumes about emotional longing, romantic idealism, and the power of choices in love. This pairing isn't just about romance, it's about discernment. The Knight is a seeker, often led by the poetry of the heart, sometimes rushing into fantasy without asking if it aligns with reality. The Lover's card, too, is often misunderstood. It's not just about passion or union, it's about a decision. A choice between what's emotionally tempting and what's truly aligned with your values. This is where your stillness becomes your strength. When you pause before reaching out, when you resist the urge to chase validation through attention, something remarkable happens. You create space to feel what's real. That's why this week's challenge is so powerful. 5 days of not initiating contact, not filling the silence, not being the one to keep the thread alive. It's not a test for others. It's a mirror for you. It shows you who naturally flows toward you, and who only responds when you're holding everything together. It also reveals your own emotional rhythms. How do you feel when you're not managing someone else's connection to you? Where does your energy go when you're not pouring it out? Love doesn't always grow in pursuit. Sometimes, it deepens in restraint. And one of the most tender lessons we can learn is this: vulnerability is sacred, and it deserves a safe place to land. You are not required to explain your soul to someone who hasn't earned that privilege. You are allowed to wait. You are allowed to protect your softness while you figure out whether it's being met with presence or just proximity. This isn't about playing games. It's about giving yourself time to distinguish between genuine connection and emotional echo. The kind of love that nourishes you won't make you feel smaller. It won't ask you to shrink, to chase, to compromise your emotional boundaries. It will feel calm, mutual, reciprocal even when it's still in process. In moments like these, I often remember the gentle wisdom echoed in so many teachings about love, not just as a feeling, but as a responsibility. One that starts with how we love ourselves, how we wait with intention, and how we listen without panic. You were never asked to rush love. You were only asked to prepare a heart that knows its worth, so that when love does arrive, it finds a home within you that's ready, grounded, and whole. Let the color of sea blue guide your emotional body now. Its calm depth reminds you that the most meaningful exchanges don't come from frantic searching, they come from quiet clarity. Speak gently, feel fully, and most of all wait for the kind of love that doesn't confuse noise for depth. You're not here to perform love. You're here to live it, honestly and peacefully, at your own beautiful pace. Healing doesn't always require dramatic shifts. Sometimes, it begins with the smallest of adjustments: waking up 5 minutes earlier, sipping warm water with lemon, or choosing to walk without earbuds so you can actually hear the rhythm of your breath. These acts may seem simple, even insignificant, but Libra, they are anything but. They are quiet declarations to your body and soul that say, "I'm paying attention now." And for someone who often lives in the head, balancing logic and emotion, it's easy to forget that the body carries the weight of what the heart tries to filter and the mind tries to control. With the Temperance card guiding this moment, the message is clear: find your rhythm again. Not the pace the world demands of you, but the one that feels like a gentle hum under your skin. True wellness isn't about restriction or control, it's about balance, and Temperance invites you to practice that balance daily. It's not enough to care for your mind if your body feels ignored. And it's not enough to eat well if your emotions go unspoken. Healing asks for consistency, not intensity. It wants presence, not perfection. Paired with the Four of Cups, there's another layer worth exploring. This card often shows a sense of disconnection, not because life is empty, but because we've grown numb to what's already present. When you're always focused on what's next, what's missing, or what needs fixing, you begin to lose touch with the gifts that are quietly waiting right in front of you. This card reminds you to pause, not to avoid, but to re-engage. To lift your gaze and notice that peace isn't something you chase, it's something you create in the space between doing and being. And in that space, your body speaks. It tells you when something isn't right. It whispers when it's tired, when it needs rest, when it longs to move or breathe more freely. But if you're too distracted, you might miss those signals. This is where simple routines become spiritual in their own right. A warm drink in the morning becomes a grounding ritual. A silent walk becomes a moving meditation. A quiet journaling session becomes a mirror reflecting back the truth you haven't yet spoken. One of the most gentle reminders I've held onto from Scripture is this: take care of what's been entrusted to you. That includes your body, your mind, your spirit, and your energy. You are not expected to carry the weight of the world without first tending to the vessel that carries you through it. And tending to yourself doesn't require elaborate plans, it begins with small promises you keep with quiet devotion. Try this, Libra. Choose one thing each day to do, not because you have to, but because it nourishes you. Maybe it's writing down the emotions you swallowed during the day. Maybe it's turning off your phone during your morning walk. Maybe it's eating lunch in silence, allowing your body to focus on digestion instead of stimulation. These acts don't need an audience. They only need your consistency. And with each small choice, your nervous system softens, your breath deepens, and your clarity returns. Let the soft hue of olive green be your companion now. It doesn't shout for attention. It holds you with steadiness, like the earth herself. This is the color of nervous system regulation, of cellular peace, of subtle strength. It reminds you that you don't have to be loud to be healthy. You don't have to overhaul your life to begin healing. All you need is the willingness to care for yourself, for your body, for your breath with quiet, sacred intention. The rest will follow. And so here we are, Libra, arriving gently at the close of this sacred journey together. If you've stayed with me until now, you know this hasn't just been a reading. It's been a moment of reflection, a homecoming to yourself. You, the eternal balancer of opposites, are learning that true harmony doesn't require you to stretch yourself thin in every direction. Real balance is born when you choose silence, not out of avoidance, but out of wisdom. When you stop reaching for approval and start reaching inward. This month, you are being called not to react, but to recalibrate. Not to explain, but to embody. That's not hiding. That's healing. When you stop speaking just to fill the silence, you start hearing the voice that matters most, your own. The world may not notice the quiet steps you're taking, but that doesn't make them any less powerful. Remember, the most meaningful shifts often happen in stillness. You don't need to be seen to know you're glowing. You only need to feel the truth that's rising within you. That is where your light lives. That is where your power begins. Now, let's pause together, just for a moment. Breathe deeply. Inhale the awareness that you are enough without overdoing. Exhale the pressure to perform, to perfect, to always hold it all together. This is your permission to stop trying so hard and start trusting a little more. Trust your process. Trust your timing. Trust the quiet work you're doing behind the scenes, even if no one applauds it yet. Your inner peace is not a product of external validation. It's the result of choosing alignment over applause. You've learned a lot in this reading, not just about transits or tarot, but about your own patterns. You've been reminded that your worth isn't measured by how loudly you love or how many roles you juggle. It's measured by how honestly you honor yourself. So ask yourself now, what one habit will I shift this week in favor of inner balance? What truth am I finally ready to live, even if I don't speak it aloud? And tell me, Libra, what is one area of your life where silence might be your next powerful move? Is there something you've been forcing that now needs to rest? Is there a relationship, a decision, a dream that requires space instead of solving? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, even if it's just one sentence. That reflection might be the doorway to your next breakthrough. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Your energy, your presence here right matters. Truly. Every like, every comment, every subscription on this channel, Zodiac Whisper Tarot, means more than words can say. It helps us grow this sacred space where cosmic insight meets emotional clarity. And if this message has resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe, to like, and to share it with someone who might need to hear it, too. Let's keep building this beautiful circle of self-aware souls who are ready to live more intentionally, more lovingly, more silently strong. You are not alone in this journey. You never were. And you don't need to roar to be remembered. This month, trust the strategy of stillness. Watch what blooms when you stop broadcasting and start becoming. From my heart to yours. May this month bring you quiet strength, radiant clarity, and the kind of peace that doesn't need permission. Now tell me, Libra. What will you hold quietly this month so it can grow boldly in its own time? Sparkles. I'll be reading your comments with care and love. Until next time. This is Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Whispering the truth the stars are waiting for you to hear.